Hello, we're Team 40. Welcome to our presentation. Today we are going to talk about what is the impact of COVID-19 on e-commerce and analyze what's the future of e-commerce. With the outbreak of coronavirus in 2019, the social life, trade, the economy in many countries in the world have been heavily impacted. It has impacted the way we communicate privately and in business. It has also impacted the way we purchase products. This has also been a cruel test of business model in all industries. While some have stronger defenses, others will struggle to survive and will be permanently redefined and redesigned. E-commerce as an ever focused on online transactions between buyers and sellers uh, is one of the main parts that has been impacted on this pandemic. First, let's understand what e-commerce is. E-commerce is the use of information and communication technologies that focus on transactions between buyers and sellers. It's one of the fastest growing sectors today. Let's look at the overview of the e-commerce in the world before COVID-19. According to statistics from Oblò, in 2019, the global e-commerce sales exceeded 3.5 trillion US dollars, and 14 of global retail sales came from online shopping. That is to say, for every $100 spent on retail goods, more than 14 is spent on the internet. It is expected that this number will continue to grow and occupy a large share of the retail industry. It is estimated that by 2023, the total retail sales will reach more than 6.5 trillion, and one out of every $5 will be online. Clearly, the reach of e-commerce has greatly improved the quality and the efficiency of economic operation, and even changed the way of human life. However, the speed of development of e-commerce across the world is different. Despite being the earlier starter of e-commerce, Europe and the United States have in the recent years not developed as fast as other economies. Let's look at these figures from Eurostat. It shows that in Europe, the adoption of website increased from 74% to 77%, while the sharing of supply chain management information increased from 17% to 18% only. The e-commerce turnover increased in the same period from 19% to 20%. However, in another statistic of growth of e-commerce from 2014 to 2017 between US and China, China is emerging as the leader in e-commerce with over 1 trillion in total sales, growing by 32% in 2017. It is showing China has significantly higher growth rates than in the rest of the world. From above statistics and analysis, we can learn before COVID-19 pandemic, the growth speed of China in e-commerce is much higher than the growth rate in the rest of the world. However, this did not consider the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. And the obvious question is how COVID-19 pandemic is going to impact e-commerce space in the whole world. When SARS affected China 20 years ago, the consumer behavior of many Chinese changed permanently. The earlier sign of the impact of COVID-19 suggested that this pandemic may have a similar nasty impact. So, how does the COVID-19 pandemic impact on e-commerce? COVID-19 has disrupted the social life in many countries in the world and severely impacted the global economy.
The figure from United States Bureau of Economy Analyst reported first quarter Q1 to 2020 GDP decline of 4.8% on a annualized basis. It is one of the biggest falls in GDP numbers and the worst quarterly contraction since the Great Depression of 2008. First, let's look at the main negative impacts on e-commerce. One obvious impact is that customers' confidence has declined. During this pandemic, many people may lose their job or have income decline. This will greatly reduce the possibility of spending. Another negative impact is disruption of supply chain and demand on e-commerce for goods and services. Supply chain and manufacturing availability were disrupted during the COVID-19 pandemic by the measures implemented by governments to contain the spread of COVID-19 virus. As in many countries, manufacturing come to a halt due to the lockdowns and shortages of labor, which will lead to delivery delays and order cancellation. However, there are also some positive impacts in commerce during this pandemic. Many offline enterprises are developing in the online space to adapt this pandemic. Several businesses which were not active in the area of e-commerce have been also entering this space to sustain themselves. Also, governments become more proactive in supporting the online purchasing. Many governments around the world supported and encouraged online purchasing to replace physical shopping in visiting the establishing in commerce. Thirdly, customers have adapted shopping behaviors to minimize risks of being infected by COVID-19 virus. WTO reports that business to business and business to customers online sales of various physical goods have experienced a surge of demand due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The statistic from Amazon shows online sales have been increased around 3 times after the outbreak in the March 2020. So next, Pei-san will introduce what is the future of e-commerce after COVID-19 pandemic.
So what is the future of e-commerce after COVID-19 pandemic? When looking at the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the e-commerce, we need to distinguish between direct impact of COVID-19 pandemic and the future impact. Certainly, there are some consumer practices changed during this pandemic, and to most of the enterprises, online e-commerce has become the fallback solutions. However, the question is, will the changes in practices and the behaviors sustain after COVID-19 pandemic? So here are a few areas we think that are expected to be changed in the future. First, make use of artificial intelligence and the machine learning algorithms. Personalized service for customers will be one of the key areas to be improved in the e-commerce industry in the future. And one of the key factors which e-commerce must address to maintain this customer is how to reduce their friction. And one of the innovative approaches to address this challenge is to make use of artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms to customize every e-commerce consumer's experiences, reducing friction by identifying and segmenting users based on their common characteristics. And next area is focusing more on online to offline platform. As China has been the first to move to a recovery phase post-COVID-19 pandemic, there are already practical examples. China's online and offline sales choose cooperation rather than competition. This improvement of online to offline model also played a very important role during this COVID-19 pandemic. A good example of online to offline model is Hema Supermarket. Like any other physical supermarket, Hema provides food, imported products, and the catering service. So consumers are encouraged to download an application, purchase products online. So if the consumers live near the supermarket, they can get their products delivered in 30 minutes. And all this cannot be successful without government support. So next part, government support also will be very important in the future in e-commerce and the online facilitating infrastructure. Government policies, such as policies which facilitate the online payment and the development of online payment platform, provide a favorable environment for the digital economy. One of China's largest mobile payment providers has about 3 times faster processing capacity than its American counterparts. This different performance is also tied to the different government policies. Let's also make a great effort for bring convenience to change online shopping experience and increase consumers' consumption activities on the internet. So, in conclusion, millions of consumers are changing their buying behavior to e-commerce during this pandemic, which will result in the future in more time-saving and convenient shopping experiences. This massive change has put a considerable strain on e-commerce today. Companies have to act to remain this e-commerce business. So many e-commerce businesses are choosing to remove the friction that stands in the way of turning occasional customers into their most loyal. The way this business and the government will react will define the future of e-commerce and will determine if consumers will continue with the new established practices. This should also provide e-commerce an advantage compared to the traditional companies, which will have to change more to adapt to the post-COVID-19 pandemic society. Thank you.